July 15th, 1997. It's a Tuesday morning in Miami Beach, and the sun is already just blazing. Down on Ocean Drive, the humidity's rising, tourists are waking up, and a man is walking home from the news cafe with a stack of magazines.
And he's heading up the steps to Casa Casuarina. It's a palace, an absolute palace of a mansion right in the middle of the Art Deco district.
That man is Gianni Versace, 50 years old, and at that moment, he isn't just a designer. He's basically the center of the cultural universe.
Yeah, he's unlocking the iron gates to his home, probably feeling safe in the very city he helped, revitalize.
But that feeling of safety was.
Mm.
It was an illusion that morning. As he's fumbling with his keys, a young man in a gray t-shirt walks up right behind him.
There's no shouting, no robbery attempt, nothing like that.
Just two shots. To the back of the head, Versace falls, and the shooter. He just turns around and walks away.
It was an execution. Cold, calculated, and just terrifyingly casual. This was not a crime of passion, and it wasn't a mob hit, no matter what the early rumors said.
And that's the real mystery we need to get into today. The man with the gun wasn't some unknown figure. He was Andrew Cunanan. And he was already on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list.
His face was on TV screens across the entire country.
Yet he somehow managed to hide in plain sight in South Beach for months before doing this.
It's incredible.
So on this deep dive, we're not just looking at the assassination of a fashion icon. We're really tracing the collapse of a human mind. We're going to look at the psychology of a spree killer, which is very different from a serial killer. And we're going to trace that terrifying cross-country road trip that ended on those steps.
It really is a collision of two completely opposing forces. You've got Versace, who you could call the creator, a man building this empire of beauty and art.
Right?
And then you have Cunanan, the destroyer, a man whose entire life was built on lies and who, it seems, was determined to burn everything down on his way out.
To really get the gravity of that collision, we have to remember just how high Versace sat.
Mm.
It's easy to forget now, but in 1997, he wasn't just making dresses. He'd completely changed how we all consume fame.
Absolutely. One source put it perfectly. Versace put fashion at the absolute center of the celebrity solar system. Before him, fashion shows were kind of stiff industry-only things.
Yeah, very exclusive.
Versace put Prince and Madonna and Elton John in the front row. He turned the runway into a rock concert.
He understood the power of the image. He basically invented the supermodel.
He did. That iconic moment, the one with Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, all walking arm in arm, lip-syncing to George Michael's Freedom.
That was all Versace.
That was Versace. He merged music, celebrity, and fashion into this one massive pop culture event, the king of glamour.
And he lived this very loud, very open life. He was openly gay. He was proud of being Italian from Calabria, and he drew on all that Greek and Roman history from his home. He was building something permanent.
Which is such a stark contrast to Andrew Cunanan. While Versace was building a legacy, Cunanan was just constructing a facade.
Cunanan is such a complicated person because, on paper, he had everything going for him. Incredibly smart, handsome, very articulate.
Spoke multiple languages. People who met him in these wealthy circles in California, they thought he was a rising star.
But it was all just smoke and mirrors.
Completely. The book Vulgar Favors calls him a chameleon. He would just shapeshift to fit whoever he was trying to impress. In that wealthy, gay subculture in San Diego, he played the part of the rich heir.
He'd pick up the check for the whole table, right?
Oh, yeah. Pouring champagne, acting like he owned the world. But it wasn't his money. He was totally dependent on older, wealthy benefactors.
Okay, so that's where the psychology comes in.
This is where we have to get into it, because Cunanan isn't your typical killer. Dr. Reed Malloy, a forensic psychologist who looked at this case, he points out something really critical. Most assassins, they act out of some grievance, political or personal.
Right, they want to change something or punish someone specific. Cunanan didn't have a political agenda.
Not at all. He fits the profile of a pathological narcissist who is suffering from what's called a narcissistic injury. When he started losing his looks, his youth, his benefactors, his entire sense of self just collapsed.
And he didn't want to rebuild. He felt humiliated.
Exactly. And for a narcissist, that humiliation often just converts directly into rage. He wanted to be somebody. And if he couldn't be famous for his success, he was going to be famous for his destruction.
He wanted the world to know his name, even if he had to, write it in blood.
Precisely. And that writing in blood, it didn't start in Miami. It started months earlier. April 1997 in Minneapolis.
And this is the part of the story that I think gets glossed over a lot, the spree itself. It wasn't random at first. It was deeply, deeply personal.
That's such a crucial distinction. A serial killer usually has that cooling off period, targets strangers. A spree killer, which is what Coonan became, operates in this burst of activity, all fueled by desperation and adrenaline.
And the first victim was Jeff Trail.
Jeff Trail, a former naval officer, a Gulf War vet, by all accounts just a stand-up guy. And he was a friend of Coonan's.
They were close.
Very close. But when Coonan showed up in Minneapolis, he was already spiraling. On April 27th, inside the apartment of David Madsen, an architect and Coonan's ex-boyfriend, something just snapped.
And he killed Jeff Trail.
He beat him to death with a claw handle.
Wow, it was brutal. And the fact that it happened in David Madsen's apartment, that's significant.
Yeah.
Because Madsen was the second victim, but he wasn't killed right away.
And this is one of the most just, harrowing parts of this whole timeline. Coonan essentially holds Madsen hostage in his own apartment. Neighbors heard them arguing.
But nobody called the police.
No, nothing was reported. 2 days later, Madsen's body was found on the shore of East Rush Lake. He'd been shot with the gun that Coonan took from Jeff Trail.
So he kills his friend, then he kills the man he supposedly called the love of his life. At this point, the personal vendettas are done. He's a fugitive.
Right. He gets to Chicago, and the profile of the victims changes completely.
This brings us to Lee Miglin, a 72-year-old real estate tycoon, a pillar of Chicago society.
And the Miglin family has always maintained that Lee never met Coonan, which makes the brutality here even more baffling.
The scene Coonan left behind,
Yeah.
it was just bizarre. It wasn't just a murder. It felt like some kind of ritual.
He was so chaotic and strange. Coonan bound and tortured Miglin, but then he stayed in the house.
He stayed.
He made himself at home, took a shower, shaved, slept in the bed. He even went to the kitchen, sliced some ham, and just left it on a desk.
The ham, that's the detail that always sticks with me. It's
What?
so dismissive. He tortures a man to death and then goes and has a snack.
It just shows this total detachment. He's treating the murder scene like a hotel. But of course he couldn't stay. He stole Miglin's Lexus and headed east.
But the Lexus had a car phone, right? The FBI could track that.
They were tracking it. So he needs a new car. And that brings him to New Jersey and to William Reese.
William Reese is the true innocent bystander in all of this.
Completely. A caretaker at a cemetery in Pennsville, New Jersey. He was just doing his job. Coonan needed a vehicle that wasn't being tracked.
So he shot Reese and stole his red pickup truck.
Yep. Shot him, stole his red Chevy pickup, and left the Lexus behind.
And that red truck,
Yeah.
that becomes the vehicle of the manhunt. Now you have a guy who's killed 4 people, a friend, an ex, a tycoon, a total stranger. He's the most wanted man in America, driving a bright red truck with stolen plates.
And he heads straight for one of the most conspicuous places on Earth, South Beach.
It just defies logic.
It really does. He drove from New Jersey to Florida, stopped in South Carolina to swap the license plates, which, shows he's still thinking clearly about evasion. But then he gets to Miami and he doesn't go underground.
No, he checks into a hotel.
The Normandy Plaza Hotel. Not luxury, but it was right there in the mix. He's going to clubs, eating fast food, walking right past police cruisers.
So how did nobody catch him?
It was just a massive failure of, communication and luck. Get this. Just 4 days before Versace was killed, a sandwich shop employee recognized Coonan from America's Most Wanted.
No way.
Yes. He called the police immediately. But by the time the patrol car actually showed up, Coonan had finished his meal and just left.
4 days. They missed him by minutes. If that call had been handled differently, Versace might still be alive today.
It's the what if that just haunts this entire case.
So now we're back in Miami. Coonan's there, Versace's there, and the question everyone always asks is, did they actually know each other?
Well, if you look at Maureen Orth's book, Vulgar Favors, there is some strong evidence that they had crossed paths. Maybe in San Francisco, maybe at a club.
Just a brief interaction?
Yeah, talk of a brief interaction, maybe at a party, maybe something transactional. But the dynamic is really the key thing here. For Coonan, meeting Gianni Versace would have been the highlight of his life, a story he'd tell forever. But for Versace, it was probably a 5-minute conversation with a fan, a handsome young man at a club. He probably didn't even remember it.
And that asymmetry, that's what fuels the rage.
Mm-hmm.
Coonan is obsessed with a man who doesn't even know he exists.
Exactly. So the morning of the murder, July 15th, Coonan is out of money. He's pawned a gold coin he stole from Miglin. He's desperate, and he tracks Versace to the mansion.
And then, the shooting. The world just stops.
Yeah.
But in all the chaos, this one weird detail emerged that fueled conspiracy theories for years. The dead turtle dove.
The turtle dove right next to Versace's body.
People went crazy over this. They thought it was a mafia sign. The bird is dead, or something like that.
It does sound like something out of The Godfather, but the forensic reality is just startlingly bad luck. One of the bullets Coonan fired passed through Versace, hit the metal gate, fragmented.
And a piece of the bullet ricocheted and killed a bird that was just sitting nearby.
A piece of lead killed the bird, a freak coincidence that felt like destiny. But while the police are looking at the bird and securing the scene, Coonan is already gone.
He runs to a parking garage, dumps his clothes, and just vanishes.
The police launch this massive manhunt. They lock down the causeways. They're searching everywhere. But he wasn't running to Mexico. He wasn't heading for an airport.
He was 40 blocks away.
40 blocks. He broke into a houseboat on Indian Creek. The owner was away. And Coonan just sat there.
For 8 days.
For 8 days. While helicopters are circling and his face is on every newspaper in the world, he's just sitting in a floating house watching the news coverage of his own crimes.
And on July 23rd, the caretaker realizes someone's inside.
Yep. The police arrive. It turns into a full-on siege. SWAT teams, tear gas, the whole 9 yards. They waited for 4 hours before they stormed the boat.
But when they got inside, it was quiet.
Silent. Andrew Coonan was in the upstairs master bedroom. He had shot himself in the mouth with the same pistol he used to kill David Madsen, William Reese, and Gianni Versace.
And he left no note, no manifesto, no why.
And that's his final act of control, isn't it? He denied the world the satisfaction of knowing his reasons. He took the truth with him.
His death didn't end the story, though. The aftermath for the Versace family was just brutal. But there's a specific legal battle that happened right after that changed how we deal with high-profile deaths.
This is a really important part of the legacy. The tabloids were offering huge sums of money for photos from Versace's autopsy.
Oh, that's gruesome.
Awful. And the family, led by Donatella, they sued to stop the release of those photos. They argued that the dignity of the victim and the pain of the family, it outweighed the public's morbid curiosity.
And they won.
They won. And that case helped establish the legal precedent that surviving families have a privacy interest in the death images of their loved ones. It's why you don't see those kinds of photos splashed on front pages as easily today.
It was Donatella protecting her brother one last time.
She had to step up in every way. She took over the company. She was battling her own demons, but she kept the House of Versace alive. She made sure the name stood for resilience, not just victimhood.
When you look back at this whole chain of events, from a rolled-up rug in a Minneapolis loft to the steps of a mansion in Miami, it's just terrifying how fragile it all feels. One desperate man with a gun and a grudge just tore through so many lives.
It really forces you to look at the nature of that grudge. I mean, Coonan wasn't a monster born in the lab. He was a creation of a culture that values fame above absolutely everything else. He killed Versace because he wanted to be Versace.
We wanted the adulation.
And when he realized he couldn't earn it, he stole it. He achieved his immortality in the darkest way possible. His name is now forever linked to Gianni's.
You can't tell the story of the Emperor of Fashion without talking about the man who took his life.
Which leaves you with this really uncomfortable question. Was this whole thing just the act of a madman unraveling? Or was it the calculated final move of a narcissist who knew exactly what the price of admission to history was?
That's a question that lingers long after the police tape is taken down. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the mystery on Ocean Drive.